Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Today in Titletown Packers Podcast. My name is Griffin, and I'm joined by my co-host Bron, and we're here to talk about the Packers' embarrassing loss to the Minnesota Vikings that went down on Sunday afternoon. It was not a pleasant sight, to say the least. How are you feeling, Bron?
Yeah, man, I'm doing good. Rough loss against the Vikings, but we're going to talk about the game, of course, and the upcoming trade deadline. And we'll also get into this Thursday night game coming up.
Yeah, just to start with the general reactions from the game, the defense was not good today. It was almost to the point of the NFC Championship game, honestly. Dalvin Cook had a monster day on the ground. The Packers could just, for the majority of the game, could not do anything to stop him. And he had that 150-yard touchdown that was a screenplay, and it looked like the Alvin Kamara screenplay from week 3 against the Saints, where we had like 12 opportunities to tackle him and just no one can. It was like that all afternoon for Dalvin Cook. He was eating us up as we predicted he would, going into the game. What else would you expect from the Vikings getting Dalvin Cook back? And we still couldn't stop it. And on offense, it was nothing but efficiency in the first half, and then it kind of got worse once we started having to play from behind. Once they started doubling Devontae Adams, we didn't really have any answers for that, and we started to come back towards the end of the game, but it really wasn't enough to make up for the inefficiencies that went down in the third and most of the fourth quarter. So, Bron, what are you thinking from this game?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't a fun game to watch. It's one of those games that we thought was going to be a blowout, especially with the lack of guys in the secondary healthy for Minnesota. They're dealing with injuries. Dalvin Cook coming back after being injured for a few weeks. They traded Yannick Ngakoue. So they're definitely a worse team on paper than they were in week one. Uh, but Rodgers talked about it as well. They came out with a different game plan this time around, and they were able to execute it. And a lot of things didn't go our way. It was almost like a perfect storm of things uh, just not falling in our favor. I felt like, in most games, we can overcome one or two things that are kind of setting us back. Like the holding calls was one thing. On a normal day, we could probably overcome that if it's just the holdings, or some of the bad calls that we saw, all that. I mean, and then the fact that the wind was a factor for us passing, and the Vikings didn't really have to throw the ball much with Dalvin Cook running it, and we couldn't get the run game going without Aaron Jones. Really combining all that was kind of like a perfect storm of what could go down in a loss, even against a team that's not a great football team in the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, that's what really sucks is that this is not a great football team, and we all had the highest of expectations for this game for the Packers. This is a 1-5 team. They just traded Yannick Ngakoue. It looks like a team who's ready to just settle for a good draft pick, and they come in and upset us at Lambeau. And you're right, it was a perfect storm of things that were stacked against us. It was the holding calls on the offensive line. It's something we haven't really had to deal with all year. The NFL in general, the refs haven't been calling holding a lot this year. And then all of a sudden, Elton Jenkins has 2 penalties. Mercedes Lewis has 2 penalties. It was insane. And that really killed a lot of drives in the second half for us. And on defense, though, I don't know. I don't know. I wasn't high on the defense coming into the game, and I am much lower on it now. We look like we look, we look like legit one of the worst defenses in the NFL, and that's insane for the amount of talent we have. Granted, it's not the most talented defensive roster. We got a lot of undrafted players, a lot of late round picks playing out there, but still, the amount of money and high draft picks that we have invested in that team, the guys we know who are good, we know these guys are good, and it just seems like every week they're in awful positions and they can never come up for us when our offense isn't playing their best game.
I think that's definitely part of it. The fact that in this game specifically, one thing I noticed was that when the offense was playing well, the defense was not, and then when the defense finally started to play well, it was kind of too little, too late for the offense when they started humming once again. And that was really what it came down to, and we're going to talk about that penalty that was picked up, the PI that was, that would have given the Packers a first down within striking distance of a touchdown to put the game within one score. It gets picked up. Obviously, that's a turnover on downs, complete game changer. Quite an egregious pickup, if you ask me, because just because of the fact that it was a pretty clear penalty, and you see Mike Zimmer and the corner on Tanyan, get into it with the ref, and then the ref decides to pick it up. That's
He got
one that,
pressured into picking that up for sure.
yeah, that's definitely what I think happened. And Rodgers also had a say in that, but they went with what the Vikings were going with. And the ball, he never had his head turned. The DB never had his head turned on Tanyan. uh Never made a play on the ball. Held Tanyan's arm down, and in the end, they picked that flag up, and it makes me wish that pass interference was reviewable again,
Right?
because that's getting called every single time, especially when you send it to New York to get reviewed. So that was crucial, and then that really was a big blow to our chances.
What
And
I
of
don't
course,
understand, sorry, what I don't understand is why is that the one they pick up? Of all the flags you can pick up, why is it that one?
well,
They
we
they had
saw, yeah, we saw Jair get called for a very, very similar looking pass interference earlier in the, I think it was the third quarter, and Josh Jackson got called for a ticky tack one as well, and then they go and let that one stand, or excuse me, they take that one off the board. So that was definitely, that was a big blow. And then of course after that, Rodgers gets us back into the game with a chance to win the game, and of course at the end, uh, O line just didn't give him enough time, even though it was a 3-on-6 rush. Three guys rushing against Jamal Williams and the five offensive linemen. Rodgers needs a little bit of time for the guys to get downfield into the end zone, obviously from 40 plus yards away. And once he got it, Rick Wagner kind of let a guy slip away, thinking the play was just about over. And Rodgers got hit and ended up fumbling, and that was pretty much the end of it for Green Bay. So yeah, that all this stuff combined, we still had a chance to win, and we couldn't pull it through. So just a weird game. Obviously, the weather was a big factor, and there was a lot of things that went wrong, and you have to just chalk it up to one of those games.
yeah, it's one of those games that I don't know. I guess every team has these kinds of games. I don't know if the truly great teams have these kind of games, but we've certainly seen this kind of game from the Packers before.
That's definitely something that you could say for sure. It's not the first time we've seen Green Bay have a game where, especially in the Matt LaFleur era, where just everything goes wrong and it's just we can't overcome it. Even if we get our way back into the game, it's just something we can't overcome. A lot of that has to do with the fact that our defense and offense weren't playing complementary football in the slightest this entire game. Up until the end, where Rodgers and Devontae connected on a beautiful touchdown pass that put us within one score. Defense makes a stop, gives Aaron Rodgers and the offense the ball with a minute to go, no timeouts. We get in a pretty good position, and going through this final play here, Robert Tanyan catches a nice ball, puts us in a good spot to have some time on the clock. Then there's a situation where the ball is fumbled all over his hands, and we can't pick it up to go try to snap it or spike it. Rogers takes some Jamal Williams is lined up next to him, and he's telling Jamal to get on the line, get on the line, get on the line, taking about 8 other seconds off the clock. So by the time Tanya had the ball caught at 35 seconds on the game clock, by the time we ended up spiking it, there was about 12 seconds on the clock. And
That
that
was
really
brutal.
gave us one chance, and obviously we weren't successful in that one chance. So just a combination of all these little things. Oh, by the way, that was to avoid an illegal formation penalty. Aaron Rodgers was trying to get Jamal to get to the line of scrimmage. Otherwise, it would have been a loss of 10 seconds, 10-second runoff, and that would have pretty much done the Packers in for sure. So all these different little things just combined to give us no room for error, and we just didn't have it today.
Yeah, that last series was that was the Tanyan catch. If he would have gotten out of bounds, it would have been it would have been whole different. We probably could have gotten 2 or 3 more plays off. I liked how we were just picking up chunk plays with Jamal at the beginning of that series. Just if they're gonna leave Jamal wide open, hit him, let him get out of bounds, waste a few seconds, but picking up a good amount of yards. And then, I thought the same thing would happen with Tanyan. Bit of a bigger gain on the pass, but he wasn't able to get out of bounds. That was rough. And when he wasn't able to get out of bounds, that's when I kind of lost hope for that series.
Well, yeah, that, and then obviously we just talked about how he picked up the ball, the
Oh yeah,
DB's holding him down. He finally picks up the ball and then drops it. Devontae has to come pick it up, bring it to the referee. Referee takes it, puts it down on the line of scrimmage. Then Jamal is sitting there next to Rodgers, and Rodgers is telling him to get to the line of scrimmage. And it
Rogers is screaming at him.
takes about you can hear it audibly on the TV copy. Rodgers, get to the line, get to the line, get to the line right now. And then he
Yeah.
finally gets to the line, and there's 12 seconds left. Took about 20, over 20 seconds off the clock, and we're just thinking like, man, what valuable time was lost there. That could have gotten us into maybe, if we do make a few more plays, we're possibly in position to score from about maybe 15, 20 yards out as opposed to
Yeah.
45. And then that obviously causes, Rodgers to have to create more time to help the receivers get downfield, and then he has to throw up a Hail Mary. But in another case, we get closer about 15 yards out. All he has to do is come up with a good play and make a good throw, and the Packers are winners of the football game, despite
Yeah.
everything that had happened prior to that series.
If Tanyan's able to get out of bounds, we can probably get that thing in the red zone. And then at that point, it's, 50-50. But instead, just one Hail Mary opportunity. And you're talking about time lost. This is the thing that annoyed me more than not more than anything, but really annoyed me about halfway through the third quarter when they took a 14-point lead. Rodgers and the entire offense we were running plays like we were up 14. I didn't get it at all. And we were running every play down to 0 seconds on the play clock. Nothing annoys me more than that, especially when we're losing by 14 points against a junior high defense. And we could not move the ball. Everything looked like so difficult. The amount of the stoppages to review something, like the 12 men on the field penalty. Like, why is it this close? Why does it have to be this hard against this defense who they've lost every corner they put out there? They had so many injuries, and it was still so difficult for us to move the ball.
That was definitely a surprise to me, to the fact that we had multiple series where things just weren't cohesive for us on offense. And you kind of forgot, like, wait a minute, these Vikings really are so limited on defense, and their personnel is completely depleted on in the secondary specifically, and in the pass rush as well. But yet, we made them look like a very formidable defense, and I was surprised at times, just because of the reality is they aren't a formidable defense, especially after the way they've traded guys and lost guys to injury. So that was definitely something that I wasn't expecting.
We've seen all year teams march up and down. We did it week one. We've seen us do it. I have no idea why it was so difficult today. I get they changed the coverages. They were going a little bit more two safeties, but uh, I don't know. You can't find a solution to that. We had nothing on the ground game. I think David Bakhtiari makes a big difference, because something I noticed is, especially when we were down late, Aaron was taking much deeper drops. He wasn't playing in rhythm. He wasn't hitting the back foot and letting it fire. He was, dropping back like 10 yards and just drifting around, waiting for something to come open. I don't know if anything was open. I haven't watched the all 22, obviously, but it was so annoying. Like, how is there no one open 3 seconds into the play against this defense? It didn't make any sense. I get Mike Zimmer is a good coach. I get he's played us a number of times over the years, but I don't know. Against this roster, how is no one open? How are we not moving the ball at will? We were doing it in the first half. We scored on both of our, well, we had 3 possessions, but we scored on both of the ones that were actual possessions. And then it's just all of a sudden, it's like it's been like this for a while with Rodgers. Whenever we're down now, it just everything looks so much harder. Going back to last year, going back to 2018, I think it has to do with, like the Ravens. Everyone talks about this with the Ravens. When they can't play their style of offense, Lamar's not a good passer or whatever. And I think I think we're a lot like that, where when we can't commit to the ground game, where we can't go play action bootleg off of that, when we have to play catch up ball, we're just not built for that. And we haven't developed that style of offense yet with Matt LaFleur.
I think it has to do with the fact that a lot of the guys that we're throwing out there just, they're not better than who the Vikings had out there on Sunday. The Malik Taylors of the world, Darius Shepard, EQ. those guys aren't much better than the corners that the Vikings have, and we're relying on them to be most of our offense, apart from Devontae Adams, especially with Aaron Jones out. So I think that's definitely part of it. You do have to, take into account that our guys aren't really that much better than theirs when you look at it from, opposite field to opposite field. Uh, and just about, the offense and the way things change once we get into a bad situation. I feel like Matt LaFleur kind of is stubborn in the way that he sticks to either his game plan or, whatever, just the idea of establishing the run or whatever it is. I feel like his offense gets really predictable, especially later in games when we're in dire situations. And not only it's predictable, but he is just not a great play caller in situations where we need him to be at times. We see a lot of second and long runs when we're down by 14 points. That's why last year we had this issue last year very very often. Um, in the third down area because we would be on these really long third downs, and we wouldn't be able to convert. And it had a lot to do with the fact that Matt LaFleur's play calling was putting us in bad positions come third down.
Absolutely.
So the first and second down play calling is crucial. Like
Look, the best way to be efficient on third down is to avoid third down altogether. And running on second and 10 doesn't do that. Second and 10 runs create third and longs. And I don't know why Matt LaFleur is obsessed with running the ball on second and 10. It never goes further than 3 yards. It is so annoying, and he does it every week. And every time he does it, I just want to harm myself physically. It is so annoying. Nothing he does annoys me more than the second and 10 runs. Like, have you ever played Madden, dude? This is simple stuff. And the oh my god, the third and fourth and shorts, the run up the middle. We did it on the 2 point conversion where the laces cross the inch of the goal line. Thank God. But oh my lord, the defenses know it's coming, Matt. They know it's coming. I
that's
don't
what
get why he does this garbage.
Yeah, that's where you talk about the passiveness from Matt LaFleur. I just feel like I don't know, what is it? He wants to establish the run, but there's no point in establishing the run when you're down by 14 in the fourth quarter, and you got to throw yourself out of a hole, and Aaron Rodgers has to perform some magic, which he almost did. It's time to run. It's time to run our offense fast, quick, no huddle, and let Rodgers do what he wants to do. That's when you let Rodgers go to work because he's got way more experience than Matt LaFleur does in that category. Aaron Rodgers' play calling in those 2-minute drills is much more elevated than what we would be getting from Matt LaFleur. And that includes, a lot of the runs that Matt LaFleur was doing, even late in the game, that cost us time, and it cost us yardage, and it put us in bad situations.
And in the 2 minute drill, it's like I'm more confident in those situations and kind of the Mike McCarthy style of offense, if you will, where Rodgers is able to just, really not a whole lot of play design goes into it, where Rodgers just takes the ball, looks for who is ever open, and gets rid of it, especially against this Garbo defense. I don't know why we weren't doing that halfway through the third quarter. Started doing it after the 2 minute warning, and what do you know? We were able to move the ball. And it's like, in those situations, we don't have time for the illusion of complexity, as Matt LaFleur always loves to say. We don't have time to set up a run so we can go a bootleg off of that 3 plays later. We don't have time for that, Matt. We are down 14 points. I don't want A.J. Dillon carrying it for 3 yards or Jamal Williams for 2 yards. I'm so sick of that when we're down 14 points.
It was a rough game for him as a coach. I feel like I said, the play calling was bad situationally. Um, And the same way that we'll start getting into the defense here. I feel like the same way in which Matt LaFleur's play calling and his use of the run game was passive with a large deficit at hand. The defense was passive in a lot of ways as well, especially on third downs. And that's kind of been the standard for what Mike Pettine's been doing this season. Just passive, just guys playing with cushion, trying to protect from the big play. But in the end, instead of big plays, we're just getting really long drives that take the clock down and put us in bad situations offensively, as opposed to big plays. And in the end, that's pretty much worse because they end up scoring anyway, and they're controlling time of possession, taking time off the clock. And like I said, our offense is in a worse spot because of that.
That has to do with his stupid bend but don't break mentality. And I'm so sick of it because we bend worse than any other defense in the league. I get the bend. Okay. Last year, our biggest issue on defense was the big play. We gave up the most 20 plus yard plays in the league. It was a big issue. So if it seems like Mike Pettin has committed everything he has to not letting those happen, but at the same time, he's given up these 14, 15 play drives where they're able to score 7 points anyway because he doesn't care about run defense. And we're playing 7 yards off every time, so they can just take whatever they want underneath. And when they're able to control the game like that, it's like there's nothing we can do. It feels like it's like they're moving the ball at will, and Mike Penton just not doing anything to help it.
Well, when you have Dalvin Cook running the ball, literally the entire game, more just about twice as much as Kirk Cousins threw it. I mean, then the whole formula for Mike Pettin's game plan on defense is just it's like useless because he's playing against the pass, but the Vikings aren't even throwing it. And when they do, it's screen passes, it's short, intermediate stuff, and in the end, his game plan is not even getting used. So when teams can run through us like we're not even playing defense, it's like what's the point? I mean, I don't even know what to say because we play a great running team in San Francisco on Thursday, who obviously gashed us twice last season in what became two of the worst defeats in Green Bay Packers history. Just absolutely nothing going on last year because of their defense playing so well, and then them being able to run the ball at will. And that's kind of what the Vikings did today, except for the fact that our offense actually was able to have some success early on and late. But other than that, I mean, gosh, what a rough game. I mean, you hate to lose a divisional game, even if it's to a team that won't be competing this year, but that's the worst part of it. You want to win these games that you're supposed to win as a team, and then when you come out and struggle, and now you have to turn it around on a Thursday night against a team that beat you twice last year, like I said, we're in a rough spot, and we're gonna have to definitely come out and win on Thursday if we want to be the team that can contend for a Super Bowl this season.
This is definitely a must-win game. We cannot sit at 5-3 if we want to be the class of the NFC. There's only one bye week this year. That bye week is very important, especially when Seattle is the other great team in the NFC. It's very important to get that. And when we're sitting at 5-3, it doesn't look very likely. So this Thursday game has suddenly become much more important than it was, and it's going to be tough. You're right. It's a road trip on the Thursday night game. That's always a tough. It's always a tough situation for opposing teams.
It really is, and obviously we've really struggled in the Bay Area yeah, over the last couple years, and even this year we saw that to be true when we lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So we're going into San Francisco for the third time in the last 2 years, and it's going to be a tough one. But I do want to kind of get back to the talking about the defense a little bit. I want to know what you thought about how maybe some of the injuries that we have could have impacted the way we're playing versus what if it's just Mike Pettin and what we're doing out there. I want to know from you what you think really the solution could be if there is one. And what we have to do to kind of right the ship to get it at least back to what we were doing last season, because Mike Pettin was there last season. Uh, we've got a lot of the same personnel this year as we did last year, and we were having a lot more success pretty much everywhere throughout the defense last year. So I just want to know what you think is the key to getting back on track finally.
Yeah, I think last year was a lot of unsustainable things that went our way. We were creating turnovers at an absurd rate. We were a bunch of turnovers that really helped us in a lot of games, especially when our offense wasn't as good as it is right now. But and creating pressure, that's the other thing. We were one of the best teams at creating pressure last year. The Smith Bros, they had a billion pressures that each of them did. Zedarius was dominant in every game, and we just don't have that anymore. And I've said this before. Last year we were playing a lot of offensive lines without their one or two best linemen. It happened like every week. We played a lot of horrible quarterbacks last year too. So I think those injuries on the opposing offenses are a big reason as to why we may have looked good at times last year on defense. But, every time we ran into a good offense last year, it was what we've seen a lot of this year. We get embarrassed. And I think all of that has to do with Mike Pettin. He gets outmatched in every single game he's coaching. And the only time we can look good on defense is when the quarterback is horrible or the offensive play caller is, past his prime. Because whenever we run into someone who knows what they're doing, we get embarrassed. And usually Kirk Cousins struggles against Mike Pettin's defense, but games like today didn't matter. They stuck to the formula. In all 6 of Matt LaFleur's losses, the Packers have allowed 177 rushing yards per game. And that's how you beat the Packers. That's how you beat Mike Pettin. I've said this before. I don't get why teams don't run it down our throat every week. That's how you beat us.
So my thoughts on that basically are, we did all this last year pretty much for 16 games, and our defense played pretty well for the most part in a lot of games we played. Why have we seen literally zero aspects of what we were doing last year? Like, I just feel like our pass rush has just dwindled away. We not one game this season have we played as well as we did last season at any point. Not one game in the pass rush. In the
Yeah.
secondary, obviously Jair has been better than he was last year, but other than that, everybody's been worse. And Kevin King has been out, of course. That could be a problem, but it's not. We're still just not playing at the same level. And then the turnovers, we haven't even had a game where we've had multiple turnovers created, if I'm not mistaken. And this was another one where we didn't create a turnover. It's almost mind-boggling considering we were creating turnovers almost every game, at least one. And now we're sitting here and we've created 3 turnovers, and the last one we recreated was that fluke Henry Black fumble
In
that was
garbage
recovered.
time.
Yep, in garbage time that was recovered by Adrian Amos against Houston. So I just don't know. I mean, how could we flip the switch like this as a defense, as a whole unit, with a lot of the same guys? You know, the same defensive coordinator. Nothing has really changed. The only thing that's changed is that 6 months have gone by since February, and now we're just playing at a completely different level, and it's not a better level than we were playing at originally.
I think the defense just overperformed last year, and it goes back to the conversations about how the Packers were a 13-3 team, but not really as good as a 13-3 team. And people were saying that because a lot of things went our way last year. A lot of things that are just unsustainable, like fumbles. Fumbles are random. We had a lot of them last year. That's probably going to regress. Interceptions. We played a lot of bad quarterbacks last year. That's probably not going to happen again. And the pass rush. Preston is much worse than he was a season ago, and Zadarius hasn't been the impact player that he was a season ago. And Kenny Clark coming back, you double team Kenny Clark, and not much you can do about that with Dean Lowry and Tyler Lancaster on the opposite sides of him. So the defense is it's tough. It's really tough, and there are really no obvious solutions to what they can do to get better. Kamal Martin and Chris Barnes look pretty good today, but they're not they're not great inside linebackers. They're not game changing inside linebackers, and we don't really have anyone in the secondary who's sticky in coverage other than Jair, where they can force these interceptions. And Jair just doesn't get targeted, so he can't do anything about that. But it's I don't even know like what the main weakness of the defense is.
I'm looking forward to see what we can do with Christian Kirksey back, Kevin King back, Raven Green on the field. I like to see all because those 3 guys I think are going to be improvements for us in those spots that they play. I'd like to see the defense with all 3 of those guys on the field. Uh, I think that'll help, especially in the run defense, because Kirksey is a pretty stout run defender. Uh, he was tackling pretty well too, especially when he played early on for us, and he was coming off 2 years straight of not playing. I do want to see him get some action. Hopefully, he can play on Thursday night. Raven Green, I thought looked really, really good in the last game he played, but he ended up leaving and getting hurt. Didn't play on Sunday against the Vikings, and I want to see him get more run as that nickel linebacker type. And then obviously Kevin King, when he's good, he can be good. He can cover guys, but then also there's times where we see him be inconsistent and whatever. But I think he'll be an upgrade, obviously, over Josh Jackson. So I'd like to see, what we can do with our defense at full strength at least, and then we'll see what happens. I mean, is there a guy on the trade market that's pretty clearly somebody that we could bring in, considering cap space and, you know, that would make an impact for us? Not really. I don't really see anybody out there that we could feasibly get that would make a difference for us. There's not many great run defenders available on the trade block. Uh, whether you're looking at linebackers in the middle or you're talking about defensive tackle interior guys on the line, there's just not a lot of guys out there. So we're just going to have to hope that the guys coming back from injury can help us improve enough to maybe where we get to the point where we can maybe find some of that magic that we caught in a bottle last year, and bring it back to the D train that was getting interceptions and making sacks and having crucial plays that helped us win football games, and win 13 of them in the regular season last year.
Yeah, well, you know what they say, the best run defense is a good offense. So that's how we've always won games with Matt LaFleur. It's when we get out to good enough leads where the opposing team can't run the ball, they have to pass because they're playing from behind. And that's what we need to do because the run defense isn't going to get any better with Mike Penton. So I think a more adequate trade that would fix both our offensive and defensive woes, honestly, would be trading for a wide receiver. Will Fuller, maybe, who Ian Rappaport is saying we still have maintained interest in. I think that's the best thing Green Bay could do before Tuesday's trade deadline.
Look, I definitely agree with you on that one. And part of it is because when you look at the way the Green Bay Packers play football and when they win games, it's because on a game by game basis, when we win, it's because we get out to a lead early and never let the team back in. When we're winning, that's what happens, and that's even dating back to last year. This is just the way that we play. When we would start off hot and get the lead, and keep teams from running the football and making them pass it, making them try to throw it on us. That created a much better situation for our defense, obviously, giving the pass rush, let them pin their noses back and start to try to get to the quarterback and get home. And then the secondary knows that they're going to pass it and they're going to have more time to lock guys down and the whole thing kind of just is cohesive in itself and it makes for good defensive play and complementary football on both sides. So yeah, I agree with you there because our offense could use another guy. It's pretty clear after what we saw the last 2 weeks. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is not capable for us, and Equinemius St. Brown is even less capable at times. He gets open, but then he drops balls just like MVS has been doing. That's not what we saw in his rookie season, but that's the current state of where he's at right now. Neither of those guys are playable for me right now. And Malik Taylor is, he's made a couple nice plays, but he's almost like, he's just a guy out there on the field for 95% of the snaps. He'll catch a ball here and there, but other than that, he's useless as well. We just don't have weapons right now. And we need a deep threat. We need speed on offense. Will Fuller's a 4-3 guy. He's a tall, deep threat type of guy, very fluid, athletic, quick, agility. He's got it all. And Rodgers would just love to have him. So I just think that's the perfect pickup for us, and hopefully it kind of covers some of our other holes that we have all over the football team, like you said.
If we started replacing all of MVS's snaps with Will Fuller, this offense would be much, much better. Because other than if whenever Aaron throws to anyone who isn't Devontae Adams, I'm holding my breath, dude. The whole time the ball's in the air because I don't know if it's going to be caught. You never know. MVS is dropping what, like a quarter, a third of all of his targets. Guy can't catch. EQ can't catch. He had 2 tough catches today. They're not easy catches necessarily, but they're catches that a lot of people in the NFL can make. And EQ and MVS, you cannot count on them to make these tough catches.
I think for me, a silver lining in this game could be the fact that maybe the front office kind of gets a wake up call from this. I mean, this is 2 performances by the receivers and by the defense in a row that have been puzzling. Uh, you know, and to me, it kind of symbolizes the fact that we need more. There's more to be had for us if we want to be Super Bowl contenders. And I think that starts at wide receiver, and then you look at it, and obviously we could use another interior guy on defense, a linebacker to stop the run. Um, but but in the end, we just need more. And I hopefully Brian Gutekunst realizes this after a loss to a team that we should have beaten handily. So I don't know about you, Griffin, but I think that is something that we could look back on, and say, okay, if we can go out and beat San Francisco on Thursday night, uh, and 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 we added a couple guys, um, over this trade deadline here. I think when we're moving on towards the end of the season, we're going to be a better football team for it. And then I think this loss, looking back, we're going to be glad it happened, because otherwise, we might not have gotten those guys that I think we're going to end up getting coming this trade deadline, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, if Brian Gutekunst say he was, he wouldn't budge uh, over more than a third round pick for Will Fuller. I think after watching this game, he should be ready to give up a first. You can't come out of this game and just be confident in the receivers we have. I don't know how he was going into the season, honestly, but he was, and it doesn't look to be working out. So he better be ready now to trade what he can to get anybody. It doesn't have to be Will Fuller. It could be a Randall Cobb or a Kenny Stills. The Texans are on fire sale mode, but it has to be someone. We cannot keep going this season with Malik Taylor. And I know we're getting Alan Lazard back, but how much of a difference is that really going to make when teams know that if you shut down Devontae Adams, it's a whole lot easier for the pass coverage. We don't have anyone who really scares you on defense. We don't have anyone who makes you game plan for him other than Devontae. And it's so easy to shut down one receiver. What's more valuable? One great receiver or a wide receiver corpse that is very, very strong. We're seeing it in Buffalo. We're seeing it in LA. A lot of the LA Rams. We're seeing it with a lot of these teams where if you stack up at the wide receiver position, you have a very good offense. It's much better than having one guy who you have to rely on. Because when you take away the one guy, guess what? There's no one. There's no one you can go to.
Going off your point there, not only that, but we're one injury away from being stuck with Alan Lazard as our number one, um, heading into a potential playoff game, a crucial, NFC North clinching game, whatever the case may be. I mean, Devontae Adams is literally our whole passing game, and when he goes down, yes, we can win without him, and we've seen that, but it's just obviously he makes our offense 10 times better, and his connection with Rodgers is so valuable because he's someone that he trusts limitlessly. And it's important for Rodgers to have guys that he knows can play and he knows can catch and he knows can, fulfill assignments correctly. All that, comes to mind for me when I think about depth, and what a playoff team needs. And for us, I don't think we're there yet, especially at the wide receiver position and at other positions as well.
Yeah, because you double Devontae and MVS. Okay, you're a little scared of MVS's speed, I suppose, but all you gotta do is get a little physical with him. Jam him at the line maybe, and he's gonna be offset, and he's not gonna be able to recover on the route, and Aaron's gonna look away from him, and that's what we've been seeing a lot over the past 3-4 weeks. So if we could just get another guy who could take some of the attention away from Devontae, I think it would be a lot better. Give him, because every time Devontae has a single coverage look, Rodgers and Adams both eat the defense alive because you can't stop it. Week 1, Minnesota was playing a lot of single coverage with Devontae. Houston was doing it last week. Guess what? He puts up 14 receptions, 13 receptions, and 146 yards, 196 yards because they will eat that up. But the moment you don't do that, we don't have anyone else to look to, so the defense isn't going to stop doubling Devontae.
That's a great point. Uh, just not having another guy that you can count on is truly a problem. No defense is going into a game saying we've got to lock down Marquez Valdez Scantling because he's going to beat us. It's just
Yeah.
not the case. I mean, Devontae Adams is every team's focus heading into a game, especially without Aaron Jones on the field. Going without David Bakhtiari, one of the best tackles, if not the best tackle in football. That the Packers are going to try to throw the ball around a little bit more because that's really what they've got to do. Um, And when teams control Devontae to a point where Rodgers has to start looking around and he's not prepared for that because these guys aren't open and he has to go through all these progressions and that it just gets to a point where our offense loses the rhythm and the cohesiveness that we need to be a great team.
This was really one of the games where we've seen Matt LaFleur's Packers win because they're able to just rely on the scheme the entire game because they're always ahead. But going into this game with Mason Crosby having a injured hamstring and the winds were a major factor. We weren't able to kick field goals. We were going for it on a lot of 4th and 10s, which we didn't convert, giving the Vikings great field position. And once we go down, we got to start playing actual offense that's not reliant on the scheme completely. And we do not have the players to be able to win, even against this scrub defense. And I was saying the same thing after the Tampa Bay game because this in the Eagles game were the only one of Matt LaFleur's career losses where we weren't getting completely blown out. This is only the second close game we've had under Matt LaFleur. That was a loss at least. It's because when we get down, we don't have the offensive talent to play in a shootout really. And when we're playing a great defense like Tampa Bay or San Francisco, a great pass rush specifically, there's really nothing we can do, and we have no answers for it.
All right, so let's talk about the trade deadline a little bit, Griff. Just give me some guys that you think might be targets for us, and specifically on the offensive side and the defensive side, if you've got any. And tell me then your predictions potentially for who we actually bring in.
I think really the only option here is Will Fuller. He's the guy that we have apparently maintained interest in over the past few weeks, and I think there's a good chance we could see him traded to Green Bay, especially after Sunday's game. But all these other guys, John Ross, I don't think Goody's willing to gamble on him. He's fast. He had a great 40-yard dash, but that's about it for him. And Randall Cobb, it's a big contract. I don't think he's willing to trade for any of these guys with a big contract. Will Fuller's on the last year of his rookie deal. I think that's a move he would make, and I think it's a move he should make too.
What do you think of Jamison Crowder from the Jets?
Uh, you know, that would be great. That would be great. He's on a contract. I don't know what his contract is, but
I think he's making about 8 million this year.
8 million. Yeah,
That's a
still.
it's a deal. I mean, it's something that they could manage though. That's the thing. It does fit under the cap parameters of what he has left in his deal. So there's guys available like Jamison Crowder is one. He's a slot guy that I think would kind of help us in the fact that he's really the Jets' number one target right now. Jets are selling everybody. I think he'd be a good fit. Another guy at receiver would be Randall, like you said, Randall Cobb, but he is making 9 million a year. 3 years on this deal, kind of overpaid for a little bit of an older guy. He got actually a raise from what he was getting in Dallas. So that was interesting. But yeah, I love Randall Cobb. He'd fit right in with Aaron. So I wouldn't rule that out, but he does have a bit of a high number on his contract. Another guy, DJ Chark in Jacksonville. He's a really good player. Their number one weapon too, and obviously they're willing to trade guys as well. So he's a good fit, I would think. And Golden Tate is another one that would make some sense. He's a bit of a high priced guy, but he's got good hands. You could plug him into play with Rodgers, sure-handed. Kind of a security blanket type guy for Aaron. When you're looking at receivers, those are some of the guys that you'd look into possibly. But like you said, I think Will Fuller's the guy for us. He just fits what we need. He's got a ton of talent, and I think overall, like you said, he's on the end of his rookie deal. We could let him go and get a comp pick the year after. Maybe even replace the trade value that we would give up. If let's say we gave up a second round pick, we let him walk in free agency this offseason, and then we get a third round pick next year for the contract that he ends up getting in free agency. So I mean, this seems like a no-brainer for me. But we'll have to see what Brian Gutekunst does at the receiver position. But are there any targets for you that even on defense that you'd like to see us bring in?
No, not really. I don't think there's, like you said earlier, I don't think there's anyone defensively on the trading block that really piques your interest, and I don't think that's a move that Brian Gutekunst should make because I think an offensive weapon like Will Fuller, who gives us everything we're missing right now on offense, is much, much more valuable than another defensive piece for Mike Pettin, who has clearly shown he's not he does not value the defensive pieces Brian Gutekunst has given him over the years.
One guy whose name has been circling trade rumors is Jets defensive lineman Quinnen Williams, who was the number 3 pick in the 2019 draft. Uh, he's a run defender, young guy, a guy that you would maybe want to start building your defense around if you're the New York Jets. But everybody's available, and they're fielding calls on him. So, Brian Gutekunst, does he want to offer maybe a second round pick and more? I would say maybe. It depends though. If they can't get Quinn and Will, if they can't get Will Fuller, maybe then you start exploring some other opportunities like a guy like Williams. But for me, it starts and ends with Will Fuller for us. And I would welcome more moves after that, but I think we definitely need to secure him, getting him in a green and gold uniform, and then hopefully figuring out the rest from there.
Yeah, Quinnen would be great. I mean, if you're looking at individual players in the run defense of why they're so bad, it starts with the defensive linemen other than Kenny Clark. Tyler Lancaster and Dean Lowry they're bad. And so Quinnen Williams would help a lot in that department, but I don't know how likely it is that the Jets would trade him, especially for anything less than a first round pick, considering he was the 3rd overall pick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a season ago, he was the 3rd overall pick. So and he's really, really good. So I can't imagine they'd be willing to trade him for some second rounder. Remember when he sneezed and blessed himself?
Yes.
That was a great moment.
Well, okay. Anyway, in the end, what do you think? What do you think we do at the deadline? What is your predict? Like, do we make a move? Do we make multiple moves? Do we make 0 moves? Do we get Will Fuller? Who's the guy we end up getting? Tell me what you think.
If we're gonna get anyone, it's probably gonna be Will Fuller. But knowing the Green Bay Packers, I don't have a ton of faith in them making something happen. Just looking at the draft we had, knowing that our receivers sucked going into the year, and we still drafted Jordan Love in a 3rd-string running back. But yeah, I don't have a ton of faith in Brian Gutekunst being aggressive.
That would be, for me, that would just, I would be close to done with Brian Gutekunst. I love him, and he's made some good moves for us, but it's getting to the point where he's just not doing enough for us to have a chance to win, for me at least. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers masks a lot of the bad things that go on with our roster, but I think it's time to start surrounding him with really good players to put us over the top and give us a real another chance to get to the Super Bowl and win one. And I think Aaron deserves that.
How many quarterbacks would be good with this receiving talent? Like,
One.
look at look at Russell Wilson. This guy's
one.
I'm so jealous.
One quarterback. Yeah. One quarterback would be good with this group of receivers, and his name is Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Nobody else.
Yeah. Well, Brian Gutekunst, I don't know about him, man. I don't know. He's had 3 drafts. None of them look great. Rashawn Gary is not taking the step forward we wanted him to. Darnell Savage is playing worse than he did last year. And his free agent class from last year, which is the main reason anyone had any kind of respect for him, they're not playing as well as they did last year. Both the Smiths, Amos, Billy Turner. Billy Turner's probably better than he was last year, but yeah, I don't know about Gutekunst. He's not looking that good in hindsight based on the moves he's made. He can make up for it by trading for Will Fuller, though.
I was just gonna say he's got a chance to redeem himself by the end of the trade deadline on Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Yeah. He's got a chance. I mean, it's about who we bring in here. What does he want to do here with this team this season? Is he looking to win, or is he looking to be a playoff team for the next 15 years by drafting Jordan Love? Or is he trying to win a Super Bowl? That's the question right now. What is his legacy going to be? Is his legacy going to be as a GM, having a consistently average to good team every year, or does he want to have a Super Bowl team under his? Does he want a Super Bowl ring? Because that's what Green Bay's about. So does he want a Super Bowl ring as a GM? We're going to find out, obviously over these next few days. But I do want to ask you about this upcoming game here, Griff. I mean, what do you think? Give me your thoughts on what we're going to have to do here to bounce back from a tough loss. Obviously, San Francisco is a team that has had our number the past 2 games that we've played them, including the NFC Championship game in which we lost. I believe it was 37-20. So just tell me, what do you think? What do you think we got to do to change our spell this time around against them, and also change our fortunes for what we had on Sunday against the Vikings?
Well, I think we're gonna have to. I think we're gonna have to score a lot of points, and San Fran had a lot of injuries today. George Kittle, Jimmy Garoppolo, they were already a banged up roster with really no running backs. But it doesn't matter with Shanahan. Shanahan's one of those guys that it doesn't matter who you give him, he's still gonna put together a cohesive offense. We saw him almost beat us at Lambeau 2 years ago with C.J. Beathard starting at quarterback, who may be starting on Thursday, but we're gonna have to score a lot of points on offense because I just do not trust Mike Pettin to go head to head against Kyle Shanahan.
Another guy that went out for San Francisco was Fred Warner, their defensive captain, the guy that really calls all the plays for them in the middle. And he's a
That's
big
tough.
part of what they do. Obviously, yeah, that's he's a big guy for them. And I'm not sure what the statuses of these guys are at this time. But Tevin Coleman was another guy that went down with a knee injury. Raheem Mostert's already out for them. Debo Samuel probably won't play on Thursday against us, so they're missing guys too. Hopefully, we get some of these guys like David Bakhtiari, Aaron Jones, Raven Green, Christian Kirksey, Alan Lazard. Hopefully, we get some of these guys back in the fold here and give us really a full healthy roster, maybe against a team that isn't as healthy as they'd like to be.
Yeah, that's really why you have to sit Bakhtiari and Jones, right? So they can make the turnaround for Thursday's game. No point to play him this week when we got a game in 4 days. I'm hoping that's the case because David Bakhtiari practiced all week, and I think having him back really creates a cleaner pocket for Aaron, and will help him. I don't know, feel more comfortable in the pocket because he looks a lot different in the pocket as of late than he did weeks 1, 2, and 3.
Well, it's a tough task going to get up against this San Francisco pass rush, who's got a ton of guys. They've got guys everywhere, and it's going to be important to have the league's best offensive tackle out there defending Aaron, and keeping him clean. The key to this game is going to be how much can Rodgers, how often is Rodgers going to be able to have a clean pocket and get what he wants done. And I think it starts with obviously the offensive line's ability to stop their pass rush. And then Aaron Rodgers is going to have to play in rhythm with the offense. Hopefully, we got guys that can get open. And hopefully, Aaron Jones is back, and maybe we could run the football this week at a good enough level to the point where it opens up the rest of our offense in the passing game.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be a better game than the two games we saw in San Francisco last year.
San Francisco actually ended up losing to the Seahawks today on Sunday, so now we're sitting at the point where the 49ers are 4-4. The reigning
Yeah.
NFC champions are 4-4. So obviously they're in desperation mode in definitely the league's best division. They're last place at 4-4, and they've got two more wins than the first place team in the NFC East, uh, heading into today. So, you know, that's a desperate team. We don't know if Jimmy Garoppolo will be starting or if it's going to be Nick Mullins or if that, like you said, Griff, they might go to C.J. Beathard. We're not sure yet with all these injuries. We're not sure who's going to play, but regardless of who's in there, we've got to change the narrative. We've got to finally win a game in California. We've got to win a game in one of these hot cities. Uh, we have to just get back to what we want to do. And it'd be a great chance to exercise some demons, obviously from last season, getting blown out by this team twice. This is a game where we can change our season um, and play really at a high level and get back to where we want to be and put us right back in that spot of being a true contender in the NFC.
Yeah, we're in a spot now where it's if we lose this game on Thursday, are we really contenders in the NFC? Probably not. Probably not, especially if it's as embarrassing as the Tampa Bay game or either 49er game last year.
I mean, yeah, considering this team just lost to the Seahawks in a pretty decisive game. If we go out and lose to them again, that's tough. I mean, where do you place us at that point?
Hmm.
We'd have to get hot, and we'd have to. Obviously, there's a lot of season left, even after this Thursday night game. But things at that point would not be looking good. We'd have to really change direction of what we want to do and what we've been doing. It'd have to be a complete 180. especially if we go lose back-to-back games. And it gets easier a little bit as the season goes on. We have to still play Chicago twice. Even at 5-3, if we lose this next game, we'll still have a great shot at winning the division. If not, we might be in first place still. Uh,
Hmm.
but we want to win these games that are against prime NFC teams. Like we beat the Saints earlier in the year, and that felt like, okay, this team is different. Then we go and lose to Tampa Bay, and we're not sure about that anymore. Here's a good chance to, even though they're 4-4, we know they're a great team. They've been dealing with injuries and a lot of different things. This is a chance to go out and beat a team that had beaten us twice, exercise our demons, like I said, and make us feel better about ourselves as a team, and really put us back into that contender status uh, as we reach for a Super Bowl trophy.
Absolutely. And in order to do that, we're going to have to put this Minnesota game behind us and make the short turnaround to this game on Thursday. We have to travel to San Francisco. That's never easy for the Thursday away opponent. You know, odds are stacked against you playing on such a short schedule, but it's something the Packers are going to have to do. And they're going to have to look a lot better than they did on Sunday.
I think Aaron Rodgers has to play well. What was markedly different about last year versus this year is that Aaron Rodgers looks like young Aaron Rodgers again most of the time, and this is a chance for him to play well against a team that he looked at his worst last year. He did not play good last year against the 49ers in either game. And statistically, Rodgers is putting up numbers this year, and he's throwing the ball better too. So I think this is a good chance for improvement for us, and it gives us a chance to find the thing that we can do better than we did in the last game and give us a better chance to win. If we could throw downfield against this 49ers defense, get out to a lead, maybe we can make them throw it with whoever they've got at quarterback, whether it's Jimmy G or Nick Mullins or CJ Beathard, any of those guys. They're not going to be able to throw on us. We have a good pass defense. Jair Alexander's locking down their number one, whoever that even is, because their receiving core is so depleted. So I think if we can make them throw the ball, we've got a good shot to win. Even though they've beaten us, I think we've got a good shot to win. But on the other hand, if they come out, go up by 7-10 points early, our offense struggles, they get the ball back, they're sitting at 14, 17-point lead, whatever the case is. Then you're talking about, okay, now they're going to run the game away, take time off the clock. Rodgers is going to be playing catch up. We'll get back into the game late, and we just won't be able to stop them. So that's what you're talking about here. You gotta take control of the game early if you're Green Bay, and it starts with Matt LaFleur. He's got to play aggressive, and it starts with Mike Pettin. He's got to play aggressive. We have to come out wanting to win this football game.
Yeah, it's a must win for maybe not the Packers standing wise, but the perception of the Packers as a team. It's definitely a must win.
And it's a must win for the 49ers too. That's the thing about this game. It's going to be a big one. Uh, this may be the biggest Thursday night game of the year for any team in the NFL. It's going to be a big one, especially if the Packers can kind of compete with them for the first time. This will be a big one if this is a closer game. I think Green Bay has a great shot to win here, especially with the injuries that the Niners are dealing with. But even at full strength, just it's about how you start. Last year we started off like we had a good chance to play well, and then one thing went wrong. If you remember, Devontae got called for walking up to a guy and taunting or whatever, and that took away our whole cohesiveness on that drive. And then after that drive, excuse me, the game just went awry in every way. Uh, and that's the way the Packers have lost. Things start off good. Same thing happened in Tampa. Same thing happened against the Vikings on Sunday. We start off good, everything looks fine, and then all of a sudden one thing happens and it changes the game, and we never look back and we lose. We have to avoid that against the 49ers on Thursday, and it starts with having success early, coming out to a lead, and keeping it for the rest of the game.
Absolutely, this Packers team does not respond to adversity very well, whether it be uh, interception from Rodgers or a fumble or a dumb penalty. It's just you're right. Every loss they have is something happens where it just looks like a different team after that play. So they're definitely going to have to. come out on offense hot, score early and often, be efficient with the ball, that's when they're at their best, when they're able to move the ball consistently, avoid the negative plays, avoid the penalties, just avoid shooting themselves in the foot. That's when we see this team play the best.
You're right. It's really about not beating ourselves as opposed to the other team beating us. I definitely think that's the key here. We have to play our best football, and we'll let the chips fall where they may.
All right, everybody, that's gonna do it here for the Today in Titletown Packers podcast. We'd like to thank you all for listening to the end here. You can find the podcast on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Mostly, we're probably there. And for me, Bron, it's gonna do it. And we hope to talk to you after a W on Thursday night.
Thanks, everybody. Go Pack, go.
Go Pack, go.